Okay, so before you output anything, one of the more technical things that you need to make sure is that your program is broadcast safe. Now, broadcast safe refers to the colors in your image. If there's pixels in there that have been pushed over that white point, then they go into the unsafe area. And if your picture is not broadcast safe, then it could actually affect other components of the broadcast. It might add noise to the broadcast, and you may not even get the program actually broadcast at all. If it's an ad or something like that, they might send it back to you. So this is a very important thing to always take into consideration if you're sending anything to a TV station. To see if your program is broadcast safe, you need to make sure that the show excess luma is checked. This little exclamation mark here is telling me that there is excess luma. Okay, what I've done here is I've just applied a color corrector three-way filter to it to intentionally make it unsafe. If I hadn't, the picture actually would have been fine. You'll see the green tick. So the green tick means everything is good. That means that you've got issues. Now, when you're looking at your clip to see if there are unsafe areas, obviously you need to move the playhead around. Okay, so it'll tell you that it's unsafe at that particular point, but you need to play it to see if there are areas that are unsafe. Now, if you want to make it safe for broadcast, what you need to do is apply a filter called broadcast safe, and that is under the color correction filters there. Now, if you have a large program and you've got a lot of clips on your timeline, then a tidy way for you to do this is to nest all of the clips on the timeline, which is just Alt and C. Call it safe version. Broadcast safe might be better. So now you've essentially one clip where you had two. So any effect that you apply to this clip is going to be applied across all of the nested clips within it. So when I drop that broadcast safe, you'll see that it turns the exclamation mark into a tick, which means that it is all safe. So it will actually make all frames on this particular nested sequence safe for broadcast. Now, if you want to modify filters or effects that have been applied to a nested sequence, you can't just double click it to load it up in the viewer like you normally do. That'll just bring you inside the filter or the nested sequence. If you want to load a nested sequence up in the viewer, you need to control click on it and go to open in viewer, and then you can look at any filters that have been applied. So you can see the broadcast safe filter has a few parameters that can be changed on it. For the most part, you don't really need to go near these. You can just select whether it's normal, conservative, very conservative, or extremely conservative. The exact specifications you will get from the broadcaster. Okay, so they'll give you some sort of a reading that you need to adhere to in here. Okay, but conservative is obviously a safe bet for most broadcasts. Okay, so that is making the actual program safe. Now, the next thing that you'll need to do when you're outputting is you'll need to get it out in a specific format. You'll need to master it to tape a lot of the time, or you'll need to export it to a file if it's going to, depending on the format that the broadcasters are actually using. Now, if you're going to tape, it's actually quite simple in Final Cut Pro. All you do is select the timeline, go up to File. Down at the end, you've got two options. You've got Edit to Tape and Print to Video. Now, I'll just explain the difference between Edit to Tape and Print to Video. Now, what Edit to Tape can do, or will only do when you have a VTR or a camera connected to it, is it will allow you to print whatever's on the timeline to an exact point on the tape. So what it does is it takes an in point and an out point on your tape, and it takes whatever media you have on the timeline or media within an in and an out point, and it will insert what's on the timeline between the in and the out into the exact time code on the tape. Okay, so that's why it's edit to tape. You can actually insert a piece of video directly onto a portion of the tape to an exact frame. So if you had a tape that contained 5 ads that you'd made, for example, and you made an adjustment to the second ad, and you wanted to replace the second ad on the tape with your new version, the exact same length, maybe there's just a phone number changed or something like that, you can use the edit to tape to slot the new version of the ad directly on. Now, for the most part, what you'll use is print to video. And print to video will do roughly the same as edit to tape, but it doesn't require the camera to be connected for you to be able to output the video. Now, you will obviously have to have something there with a tape in it to receive the video, but print to video will actually just play it out anyway. So I can demonstrate here without a camera what print to video can do. Now, print to video will give you a number of different conventional objects or components that are added to a tape when it's being sent to broadcast. Now, you'll see down here at the end you have an automatically start recording as well. So if I had a tape deck connected to Final Cut and I selected that, as soon as I clicked OK when I had all of this set, it would automatically hit record on the camera and start recording whatever's on the timeline. This tells Final Cut what you want to be added before and after your clip, and again this comes down to whatever the broadcaster requires. Color bars, you can specify the amount of time, whether or not they're on the tape, and the tone. So this is bars and tone, and the tone is set by default to -12 decibels. So what the engineer in the studio can do when they receive your tape is they can play the tape and make sure that your -12 decibels is actually reading on their equipment as -12 decibels. Once you know that the -12 decibels match up, then you can be assured that the audio that follows on the program itself will also be at the correct level. So if this was coming in at -18 on their equipment, then they would increase the levels on the tone level, and then the levels of the subsequent audio would also be increased to the appropriate level. After the bars and tone, you can add black. Now, black is simply a black screen. Okay, so you can have 10 seconds of black, or you can have as many seconds as you want, or no black. So some conventions you'll find where you've color bars, and then you might have 10 seconds of black, a certain amount of time of a slate. Now, the slate can be the clip name, if you have a clip that you're exporting, or you can specify some text. Now, what you will have for the most part on a slate, if you're a regular contributor, if your production company sends a lot of stuff to RTE or TV3, then they'll be looking for a real number. So you'll have your production company, so ITTV, just to pretend it's the production company, number 65. So this is the 65th ad that you've sent, or program that you've sent to RTE. After that, you'll have the title. So let's say this is a fashion insert. This will be the title of your program. After that, you'll have the date, and maybe some other information like the type of audio, if it's Dolby surround or stereo or what have you. So that's going to show up as just basic text on the screen. You can then have more black, so I'll just bring these down so they won't be playing for ages when I'm showing you them. And then your countdown. Now, your countdown can be Final Cut Pro's built-in countdown clock, or if you have something like a QuickTime movie that you've created in After Effects or Motion, simply of a clock. And I actually have one here kind of queued up. This is just a motion file. I'll be coming to this in a moment. That could be output as a piece of video, and all it does is play through. You can specify then that that is the countdown clock that you want to use. So this is the leader. The leader goes before the media is the program itself, and then the trailer. So the media can be print into, out, or everything on the timeline. Now, what you can also do when you're printing to tape is you can print a number of different versions of the same thing on, or you can loop the same program a number of times on the tape. So you can loop it as many times as you want, and in between each loop you can have a certain amount of black. After the media, let's say I'm not looping it, it's only going to play one time. Now, after the media, you'll often find that you're required to put a certain amount of black afterwards. That's so that when the program ends, if the program ends abruptly and then you just have blank tape, for example, that might create problems if when it's being broadcast the engineer doesn't cut from the program in time. It might actually, there might be some sort of an artifact might show up on screen or something like that. So if you have a black trailer and maybe a fade to black, or the titles go off the top of the screen and you're just left with pure black, then that will actually be a part of your program as well. Okay, so when I click OK here, I'll actually print entire media, and we'll just have a look at this. So it'll just do a quick render. So ready for playback, start video recorder, and click OK to begin. Now if I had clicked automatically start, I would just have to click OK. The video player would start up. This might deafen you when you're listening to this screencast. You're not getting it at all. Right. So it beeps on 2, and then you get 2 seconds of black, and then your program starts. And a few seconds of black in the trailer. So this is the content if it was being mastered to tape. Now, exporting a file, it would seem, is slightly, it's not as easy as mastering to tape. Perhaps Final Cut just hasn't kind of fully caught on with the different types of workflows that people are using. But for what you guys are doing, you're actually I'm asking you to export a H.264 file. So print to tape or print to video or edit to tape actually won't work here. You can't just use the inbuilt leaders and trailers. So you have to do it on the timeline. Now what I'm going to show you is how you would do basically what you just saw there on the timeline, and then I'm going to kind of show you what I require you to do for the program in the studio. Now, if you're working on the timeline, then you need, first of all, the bars and tone. The bars and tone can be found in the video generators. Bars and tone, so we'll look for HD 25p or 50i. So that's basically just a PAL bars and tone. Now, if you need a specific amount of bars and tone, then you just put your in point. I'll just clear the in and the out. You put your in point, and then you go up to the duration control here. So if, let's say, you want 10 seconds of bars and tone, you just tap in 10 in the seconds and get rid of 7 frames there. And when you tab that, you'll see that the out point is placed 10 seconds away from the in point. So if you do an insert edit here before your broadcast safe material, it will insert it perfectly in there in the timeline. So let's say after that I want a slate. Well, a slate again is pretty simple because all you're doing is you're creating some text. So you'll go up to your text generator, and in the controls I can put in all of the same material. So it's ITTV number 65, the fashion show, pop that into video view, and again, let's say I want this for 10 seconds. This is already actually showing at 10 seconds, so that's fine. I'll insert that. Now remember, inserting is going to give you an exact edit down onto the timeline there. Now if you were to be adding black, then you can use either a color solid or you can use a slug. So I'll use a color solid. You can make that black. Again, let's say this just needs to be 5 seconds. And do an insert there. Now the clock. Now the clock is something that you can, you might need to do a little bit more work on, and First of all, it's a little bit trickier. It's not difficult, but it's just an extra few steps you need to make. But in doing these extra few steps, it actually leaves the door open for you to create a custom clock. So if you have your own freelancing company, or if you're going into video production after you finish here, then it might be a nice idea when you're sending stuff to broadcast to actually have your brand on that clock. Um, Now, this is one way that this can be done, and this is through the use of motion. Now, this is a motion file that was downloaded from a website. So this was just a website that was supplying free downloadable motion clocks. I can give you the name. I think it's called industrialrevolution.com. Now, it's no different from any other motion file. You can get in here and you can edit all of this. You can put your own background on it. But what's important here is that this is, let's see now. Okay, so it's editable text. Now, when you have content in motion, and this includes any content at all, that contains a combination of an image and editable text, or even just editable text, you have the ability to save that as a template. When you save something as a template, you can create, first of all, a new theme. And what a new theme is going to do is it's going to create a new folder down here in the master templates in Final Cut Pro. So this is another example of the integration between Motion and Final Cut Pro. So you can see a number of themes here: 3D text projects, atmospheric, basic white. These are just folders that contain templates. When you save this out from Motion as a theme, it creates a new folder. So I could call this clocks, and then I can the new theme that I've created will be called clocks. When I create that, you'll see that I have a new theme here now, together with all of the other themes that are there in Final Cut Pro. So I can call this now PAL 30 seconds black, or something like that. Anything at all. Now, I've already created one already, so I won't save this. Now, if I click save, what it does is it writes a new theme, which is stored in the application folder on the system. Final Cut Pro can instantly recognize that as a theme and a template. Now, I just saved it prior, while you guys were waiting there. I saved one called clocks, or clock rather. Where's that gone now? Master templates. Okay, I'll go back in there and save it out again. Save as template. Create a new theme. Clocks 2 template PAL clock. Now, there's my clocks 2 theme, and inside that I have a PAL clock black. I can open that up now, and you'll see that the clock is just playing away there. Now, the advantage of using templates is that wherever there was text information or text objects in the motion file, it's going to show up as controllable text here through the control section of the viewer. So if I drop this clock, which is 30 seconds in duration because it's a 30-second clock. So if I put in my 30-second clock here immediately before the clip and then load it up, I could also put in, that's just actually, let's see now. Yeah, industrialrevolution.com. So I could change the title here to the fashion show, and put in, transition time and date and all that kind of stuff there. Now, this clock, it would appear, is not broadcast safe. Now, this isn't going to be broadcast, but you may find that particularly because it's not going to be broadcast. I'm not sure what the technician would say for a broadcast unsafe clock, so it couldn't hurt to do a quick broadcast safe on that as well. Okay. Not sure why the broadcast safe wasn't working there. I'm just bringing down the transparency to darken it slightly, and that brings it into the safe zone. Now, what we have here now is we have our bars and tone, we have a black, we have a slate, we could put another black in there, and we now have a clock template that can be used over and over again as a Final Cut Pro clock, essentially. Now, obviously, this will have to be done for every machine that you're on. You'll have to save as a template, open up Motion, open up the clock, save as a template, and then it will be available on that machine from there on in. So what I'll do is I'll put the clock Motion file up on the Mac here. You can go through that process yourself. Okay, so this would be a way of exporting. Now I might need another trailer or another piece of black afterwards, so I'll duplicate that, copy it down the timeline, and now I have everything I need to export a video file: bars, tone, slate, black, clock, etc. So this is if you're doing something for hard disk storage broadcast as opposed to tape based. Now, because of the large files that I'm going to be making from your programs, and just down to basic storage problems, I'm not going to take a full bars, tone, slate and all that kind of stuff. What I want you to do is I want you to simply put in the clock, your program, and no trailer. So I'm just looking for a 30-second clock with your program information up here. Okay, so you'll go into controls here. When you've got that template working, you'll put your program title. You can also add any other information there that you need. Okay, and then that'll lead into your program. So I'm going to take a file with a countdown clock and the program, and then you just go up to export or send to compressor or something like that to get it out.